Hello everyone, so today we're doing a very heavily requested topic, and that topic is actually Krillin versus the entire Naruto verse. Let me bring down how this is mainly debated against more casual debating fans or versus fans, and it goes a little something like this. Well, no, Krillin can destroy planets. Naruto can't destroy planets, so he solos Naruto. He's just too powerful. And then for the Naruto fans, it's like, what, Krillin? He's so fodder. He's died like 1,000,000 times. No, stop. So I've been a Dragon Ball and Naruto debater for many years, since I was like 12 years old. So a considerable amount of time, but it's actually the reason I got into power scaling was because I wanted to know about Dragon Ball versus Naruto. I was always curious, where does Naruto stack up in Dragon Ball, and would Dragon Ball just shit on Naruto? Because I love the series, I love the series equally. So the arguments I always hear nowadays are, of course, like Krillin solos Naruto, or Naruto would easily destroy Krillin, blah blah blah, stuff like that. It's mainly what people want to know, actually, when it comes to the series fighting. Most people don't seem to think that Naruto could, like, solo Dragon Ball or something like that. What you need to know about Krillin, is I've done videos on this, is that Krillin is actually extremely powerful despite his meek demeanor. He's very intelligent for Dragon Ball standards, although Dragon Ball standards aren't very high in Naruto standards. But in Dragon Ball standards, he's very smart. He fucking was gonna kill Nappa with the Destructo Disc, and even though Nappa was his superior, he was able to, you know, get away from Dodoria, cut Frieza's tail off, hold off Imperfect Cell and filler arcs, stuff like that. But the reason Krillin is so powerful is because Krillin's easily multi-planetary and possibly star level if you wank him a little bit. Now, the reason for that is Piccolo in the start of Dragon Ball was actually capable of obliterating the moon to absolute non-existence in 4 seconds flat, and the shockwave from him obliterating said moon into non-existence was hit Earth. Like, he could feel the shockwaves of the moon being obliterated from Earth. Now, that is in itself over 300 exatons of force and reaches into the small planetary ranges, lowballing. Even if you lowballed the velocity of said attack, it's actually could be possibly just normally planetary. Now, this attack is from Piccolo at the start of Dragon Ball. And as we know, Krillin actually surpasses that same Piccolo by over 4 times by the time he trains with Kami, and easily one-shots numerous Cybermen who are all 3 times stronger than that same Piccolo that just obliterated the moon into nothing. Now, some people will always bring up Master Roshi obliterating the moon. However, that's completely different because the guides actually specifically state that's a moon-level attack. There's no shock waves that hit the Earth from the moon blowing up, stuff like that. So it's a little bit more consistent to say that Piccolo's small planetary, and we don't want to highball too much, because in debating, you try to be as logical and rational as possible. You want to be as convincing as possible, so we don't try to, like, fanboy or anything. We're just being as, you know, as concrete as we can. This is a small planetary level attack in just the early Saiyan saga. Now, Krillin surpasses this by numerous times. By the way, that attack was easily relativistic since it hit the moon in at least 4 seconds. So if you multiply that by at least 4 times for the Saiyan saga, it'd easily be over 300,000 kilometers per second. And he would, in fact, be the speed of light. And then on Namek, he gets his potential unlocked, which allows him to fight fighters that rival Vegeta, who is tens of times stronger than the Cybermen ever could dream of. On top of that, his potential keeps rising as it's unlocked, and he's capable of rivaling the Ginyu Force by the time he fights second form Frieza, and this is confirmed in some of the V-Jump guides. And then by the time he reaches the Android Saga, he's just absolutely monstrous. And we know characters like first form Frieza were capable of destroying, you know, planet Vegeta, which had 10 times the mass of Earth. Completely obliterating it. Something like Piccolo obliterated the moon, but with a planet 10 times the size of Earth, which would be 10 tons of force, which would be small dwarf star level in terms of, like, attack potency. And then Krillin gets to the point in Dragon Ball Super that after chugging some juice and lifting some weights in his fucking bedroom for a year, he was capable of actually beating Gohan, who was simply testing him, the same Gohan who was able to fight Solar System level Lavender. It's impossible to state how strong Krillin really is to these characters. All we can really say for absolute certain is that he's more than likely more powerful than he was on Namek. So by that logic, he's at least multi-large planetary, maybe just large planet plus, and at least dozens of times the speed of light. And if you want to highball him, you could say he's rivaling Android 18, since he trained with 18, and 18 was going to tag team with him against Goku. So maybe he's rivaling Android 18, who would in fact be Star Plus, because, you know, Frieza is hundreds of times stronger than he was in his first form, and Android 18 is stronger than Namek Frieza. So it's logical that he may be Star level if you highball him. However, the Naruto verse isn't too weak itself. It actually does have somewhat rivaling powers, maybe not to high-balled Krillin, but to maybe a lower-balled version. The Naruto verse does somewhat have a relative power. Power of the Naruto verse when fighting Krillin isn't really necessary. That's not how the fight's really going to boil down, but I'll briefly explain why they're somewhat relative a little bit. For example, like the Naruto god tiers in terms of power, I mean, Kaguya created an expansive truth-seeking orb that was so massive that it was going to consume an entire a planet and moon-sized dimension, possibly a star-level dimension if you highball it. And then we know that Madara actually had techniques like the Sage Art Light Fang, which would confirm the speed of light, and that Might Guy was able to run so fast it was warping space, which is on the verge of running at the speed of light, since it would increase his speed increased his mass to such a great degree that it was warping space, which would in fact be like black hole-esque kind of shit. So they do have like the planetary light speed-esque Saiyan Saga vibe, right? No one's trying to argue that Naruto is stronger than Krillin per se, maybe some people, but Naruto versus Krillin in terms of power, yeah. Krillin's stronger than Naruto, okay? I'll say that right now. Yes, he is stronger, unless you highball Kaguya to star level plus, which he might be. However, like I said, Krillin can solo the Naruto verse, but he doesn't solo the Naruto verse. Now, the reason for that is that the Naruto verse is very hacksy. They're very technique and strategy based. Like, for example, Might Guy got the 8 gates. He was so powerful that the mere shock waves from his punches were going to kill Madara, and Madara would have killed Guy 8 times over in their fight if it wasn't for numerous other Kage level fighters teleporting away Madara's attacks and defenses so that Might Guy could just beat the fuck out of him. That's a perfect example of strategy and hacks overdoing power in Naruto. However, that's not what would work on Krillin. For Krillin, he's from Dragon Ball, and Dragon Ball characters rely on concentration, ki, and courage to amplify their defenses and power. So, for example, when Master Super Saiyan Goku was taking a fucking nap and there's a butterfly on his nose and everything was sweet and peaceful and Krillin threw a rock at his face, it was the most agonizing experience of Goku's life, right? Or when God Goku thought Frieza was done for and he suppressed himself back down to normal Frieza soldier fodder like Sorbet could pierce God Goku with just a ray gun, stuff like that. Or he could pierce base Goku, who's still massively more powerful than anything in Z, with just a ray gun. Krillin would fall under the same consequences. If Krillin was ever knocked unconscious or asleep or off guard, similar effects would apply. Another thing about Krillin is that Krillin, he goes for the KO against opponents, even against the Frieza Force, who he should have PTSD. Actually, he did have PTSD in Revival of Frieza against the Frieza Force. Even after getting that PTSD experience of them killing him, or Frieza killing him, he was still generous enough to only knock them out and not actually try killing them. That's how kind to even people, to his enemies he was. He wouldn't kill them. Now, knocking opponents out is great and all. Maybe that would work. That would work on 99.9% of Shinobi. Although for the god tiers like Kaguya, Momoshiki, the Sage of the Six Paths, Naruto, maybe not Sasuke, and Madara, is that knocking someone out with just like a little chop will not knock out a god tier Naruto. In fact, a lot of characters wouldn't be knocked out by that due to their massive regenerative abilities. Or the 9 Tails could wake up Naruto. He'd be like, yo, are you okay? The 10 Tails regeneration for Madara and Kaguya is just too insane. Madara literally was kicked so hard half his body blew off. You think having a little chop on his neck's gonna knock him out for the rest of the day? You're wrong. Period. Maybe for someone like Sasuke, though, who doesn't really have any regen or something, maybe then I could see it. But then there's other characters that could wake Sasuke up or heal him, which is another problem Krillin faces is collective strategy, planning. His morals are simply not correct for this type of battle. Like, for example, if Krillin was bloodlusted, he was completely irritated, like completely feral, and he charged up a Kamehameha so powerful that it looked like the final flash and just obliterated like the entire battlefield of Shinobi. Sure, maybe he would win. However, that's not how Krillin fights, and that's never how we've seen him fight. So only a bloodlusted, action replay-coded Krillin would win this battle. In terms of how this would actually go, Krillin would probably sweat a little bit, be meek, and try to greet his adversaries, in which they will try to instantly hacks kill him right off the bat. Maybe he can dodge some, maybe he can't dodge some, but there's a problem, is that there's massive ocular genjutsu abilities for most of the high tiers in Naruto, like the Sage of the Six Paths, Itachi, or anybody with their ocular genjutsu could actually manipulate Krillin unconscious. So the reason ocular genjutsu, I know genjutsu usually only works on people with chakra. However, Sharingan plus genjutsu does not require the flow of chakra to work. This is shown when Sasuke manipulated Manda, who is a sage creature who doesn't actually have chakra, or manipulating the Bijou, who don't actually have like a flow of internal chakra. They're just chakra incarnate. Stuff like that. It's actually more like injecting chakra into your opponent subconsciously and then being manipulated to your will. There's also things like Izanami and Izanagi. Izanami being able to completely manipulate the physics of you and your opponent into putting your opponent into a loop until they concede the battle. Or the infinite Tsukuyomi, which would lock Krillin unconscious and anybody could kill him while he's unconscious, or even during the Izanami. There's also things like Sasuke could teleport Krillin around the battlefield at will. Sasuke could teleport Krillin to them, close range, and Madara's Limbo clone could literally kill Krillin because Krillin cannot see, sense, or hear a Limbo clone, and he would be caught off guard and one-shotted. There's also the argument that any Renegon user can steal the opponent's soul. So, like Madara, if Sasuke teleported Krillin to Madara, Madara holds his hand out and Sasuke teleported Krillin to Madara. Madara could literally rip out Krillin's soul. Or you could have a Totsuka Blade Genjutsu combo where Itachi Totsuka Blades Krillin with the formless Totsuka Blade and seals him to a Genjutsu. Or you could have Kaguya or DMS Kakashi battlefield removal him. Krillin just does not have the right mindset to deal with this. Like I said, if Krillin went balls deep and was nuclear bombing everybody, sure, great. Plug your controller into Krillin's ass and tell him how to fight. Then maybe he wins. But for the most part, Krillin doesn't know a single thing about these guys. He doesn't know how they work. He doesn't know most of them regen or heal each other. He doesn't know they can manipulate space and steal people's souls and shit. It's just so far-fetched to say Krillin wins. So like I said before, I'm going to say it one more time. Krillin can solo Naruto, but he doesn't solo Naruto. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. And until next time.